What is that?
So I'm trying to figure out what it was, and had the color of, like a chicken nugget. It was just weird. It really just threw me off.
Fishing isn't just a pastime. It's a passion that many take very seriously. And sometimes, it leads to discoveries you'd never expect. Consider this: our oceans are barely explored, and we've only just scratched the surface of what lies beneath. Occasionally, fishermen reel in catches so bizarre, you'd swear they were fake, but the footage proves otherwise. With that in mind, here are 20 fishing anomalies captured on camera that no one believed could exist. Number 20. Two-mouthed fish. Given what I'm going to be showing you in this video, it's honestly kind of hard to pick one very basic thing to do. Seriously, I'm going to be getting pretty weird with the fish and other beasts that are going to be shown off. So we'll begin with something that's somewhat basic: a fish that was caught in Lake Champlain in upstate New York. The pictures and videos clearly show that it's a nicely sized fish, and it just so happens to have two mouths. They took multiple pictures of the fish, and it clearly shows that it does have two mouths, and that's not how it's supposed to be. The irony is that the fish, despite being hooked by the angler husband and wife duo, was still trying to eat even while being on the line. It felt extra heavy this time, so they were like, okay, this is a good one. You have to remember that fish are not dead just because you bring them out of the water. The fish was clearly something quite special, but what exactly was it that happened to cause this kind of mutation? Well, that's actually what happened. There are more cases of things like this than you would expect. You see, the two-mouthed fish is a case where, in the womb of the fish's mother, a couple of embryos had fused improperly. That would lead to it growing in this very atypical fashion. The sad part of mutations like this is that typically the fish or other creature it happens to doesn't last that long, as the body's not really able to handle something like this. That's why it's such a rare thing. You're not supposed to see something like this in the wild. And yet here we are. How many fish like this are in the sea? Well, that's actually unknown for obvious reasons. But given that beings like this have been caught at least a few times, it shows that it's more than random and can happen with any fish at any time if things in the birthing process go wrong. Number 19. The transparent alien. Now, I promise this isn't some kind of random alien post. This is another case of a person finding something truly shocking and not really being able to identify exactly what it is. So when you see how freaky this thing looks, you're going to understand why people jumped to the alien category. I don't have a whole lot of information on the video itself, and it's entirely possible that it's fake, given how some people are on the internet. But based on what we're seeing, it does seem to be kind of real. What's freaky about this thing isn't only its shape, which seems to be a mixture of a spider and a blob monster, but that it's almost entirely transparent. I do know that some creatures have see-through bodies for various reasons, but they've never looked quite like this before. Even the person holding the thing says, "Tell me this isn't an alien." Well, I can say that safely, but that doesn't mean that this isn't something weird that needs to be examined further. The question you may be asking right now is, if it's not fake, where did it actually come from? As noted earlier, the oceans of the world are barely mapped out. They're emphatically unknown in many respects. We're lucky to know as much as we do about them. Furthermore, when you get to the deepest and literal darkest parts of the ocean, you'll find that creatures of all shapes and sizes live there, and they aren't afraid to be freaky or look freaky in order to survive. There are creatures with transparent skulls to capture light and see what's above them at all times. Massive toxic amoebas, sharks reminiscent of xenomorphs, and a whole lot more. So something like this being down there? Well, it is entirely possible. Until we can say for sure that this isn't fake, let's put this in the what-if category. Number 18. Dinosaur-like creature. Getting back to reality for a bit. And yes, I know that's hard to do. Just roll with it for a while. We have a case of a fisherman catching a fish that was so unique he couldn't even describe it. So he dubbed it a dinosaur-like creature. A fisherman in Norway was the one who got this miraculous catch, and you can see why it would be quite the head-turner for both him and everyone online who saw it. This fish had a big head, just as big a pair of eyes, and a long body with a slender tail region. By the fisherman's own account, when he caught this fish, he almost jumped out of the boat, which is quite the reaction. But given the circumstances, we understand why he did that. The fish was reported to be a ratfish, a relative of the shark that reportedly goes back 300 million years. That would make it as old as some of the dinosaurs that he and others thought it resembled. Another thing to point out here is that this fish usually lives in incredibly deep waters, which is why it's rarely ever caught by anglers, no matter where they are. Once again, it's unsurprising that he didn't recognize the fish on sight. Most wouldn't be able to. And this speaks to another aspect of fishing. We know the basic types of fish, but we don't know the ones that rarely get tangled up in a line. That's why videos like this are possible. Oh, and one more thing. After he caught this ratfish, he didn't release it back into the water or even mount it on the wall to show off. Oh no, he actually consumed it. That's right, the guy ate an incredibly rare fish that few people had ever even seen before. Apparently, it tasted delicious. Number 17. living dinosaur sturgeon. Here's another example of a fish so shocking in size that it was compared to a dinosaur. This time around, we're heading to British Columbia. Canada has these dinosaurs on lock, apparently. Before you ask, as the title notes, I do know for a fact that this was a special kind of sturgeon. But there's more to this fish than meets the eye. First of all, it was about 2 meters long and weighed over 272 kilograms. That is one heck of a fish to find in a river in Canada. Furthermore, after studying this fish some more, they found that it was likely one that had lived for over 100 years. On the whole, people don't really think about the lifespans of certain creatures unless they are directly studying them. Check this out. This fish is, and it's easy to assume that certain fishes are short-lived for one reason or another. Yet here is one that lived for over a century, and that's pretty cool if you ask me. Sturgeons are related to the paddlefish and are thought to have evolved from an earlier group of fish which appeared about 419 million years ago, at the end of a distant long ago period. So again, this is indeed a living dinosaur in a certain context. As for what happened to this so-called dinosaur, it was tagged so that it could be monitored later and then released back into the river. They did this not only for scientific purposes but because a lot of sturgeon species are endangered. So even finding one as massive as this isn't a good enough reason to kill it or eat it. Could you even imagine how many people that would feed, though? Number 16. Suckermouth catfish. Sometimes you just have to find something so rare it has to be shown off to the world at large. In this case, the suckermouth catfish was found by some fishermen, and it was cause for celebration because they're rarely seen above water. As you can tell, this is a fish that not only has a unique pattern on its body but also has a pair of lips that look as though they're going to suck up whatever they're eating during the day. When it was found, it was even more improbable to find this fish due to the nature of things going on in the area. That's why we should always be happy to find something like the suckermouth catfish when we do, as you just never know when it's going to be seen once again. Now it's time for today's topic. In the heart of the Pacific Ocean, a man joined a Japanese whale fishing expedition to document their routine and challenges. For 4 days, the crew experienced typical catches: whales, tuna, and other large marine life. But on the 5th day, their sonar detected something truly extraordinary. The object appeared massive, far beyond anything they'd encountered before. As the net was pulled aboard, the entire crew froze in disbelief. Dangling before them was an enormous fish-like creature, unlike any known species. Its gaping mouth stretched wide enough to swallow a small car, lined with rows of jagged teeth. Its body was covered in a thick, leathery hide that shimmered with a strange bioluminescent hue. The fishermen were at a loss. This was no ordinary catch. The creature was quickly secured and photographed before its condition deteriorated. Speculation ran wild as the images made their way to marine biologists and global governments. Some scientists proposed it could be a mutated whale, deformed by deep-sea pollutants. Others suggested it was a prehistoric species, long thought extinct. However, an unexpected theory gained traction. Could this be an alien life form? With increasing evidence of unidentified underwater phenomena, governments, including the US, have hinted at the possibility of extraterrestrial life in our oceans. Was this mysterious catch proof of their claims? Only time and further investigation will tell. For now, this discovery remains shrouded in mystery, fueling global intrigue and questions about what truly lies beneath the waves. Number 15. Prehistoric alien creature. Remember before when I talked about a creature that lived in the deep ocean that resembled a xenomorph from Alien? Well, this is not that fish, but it might be something at least related to it based on how horrifying the thing looks. Andrew Rose was out fishing in the Northern Territories National Park when he snagged a 15-centimeter-long worm goby, a rare mud-dwelling fish with no eyeballs, a bony head, and sharp teeth. So no, it's not a xenomorph, but that's a freaky fish for nature to have popped out, you know? Andrew himself even noted that he was not excited about catching this fish, as he couldn't tell what it was and likely thought he'd pulled up a monster. Now, I can see why he would think that, and he was right to be scared. This just goes to show you that you never know what may appear in the depths of the ocean. Andrew had fished that area for quite some time and had never caught anything like this before that infamous day. You go out to catch a fish and you may like what you get or you may not. Number 14. The Pacific football fish. Now, this is a real type of fish, and it's one of many that live in the deepest parts of the ocean. When one of them wound up on an Oregon beach, people took notice. Here we have a fish that wasn't necessarily caught by a fisherman but was actually found after it had died and washed ashore. What's unique about the Pacific football fish is that it's a kind of anglerfish. You can tell that by the protrusion it has on its head, like in Finding Nemo. Those fish emit a light from their protrusion to attract other fish, and then they sneak in, and that's when they get their meal. The black body of the Pacific football fish likely helps it to blend in further with the dark depths of the ocean that it inhabits. Adding to its eerie allure is its unusually large teeth, which are perfectly adapted for snagging prey in a single swift motion. Scientists believe the Pacific football fish's ability to emit light is due to a symbiotic relationship with bioluminescent bacteria. What's even more fascinating is that only the females have this light-producing lure, as males are significantly smaller and live solely to mate. Their rare appearance on beaches provides marine biologists with an opportunity to study creatures otherwise inaccessible in their natural habitats. As with many deep-sea creatures, the Pacific football fish remains a mysterious and captivating reminder of the strange and unexplored world beneath the waves. Number 13. Lancet fish. It's important to note that for pretty much everything I'm going to show you here today, there is an answer for what these things are or are not. So while you may not know what a lancet fish is right off the bat, you're going to never forget it once you've seen it. As you can tell from the photos of it, this is a freaky-looking fish that honestly earns the moniker of monster fish. Seriously, it looks like something that someone would make for a monster movie or television show. What it really is a deep-sea fish called the lancet fish that is not only freaky but also something of a cannibal. That's right, when it comes time to feed, these guys are not afraid to go and devour each other in order to get the constant nourishment that they require. What makes this monstrous is not necessarily that this happens. There are plenty of creatures in the deep known to eat each other. What's freaky is that there's no real reason why they do it. Typically, cannibalism takes place because of a lack of food, but in this case, they just straight up go for it when they get the chance. Really, who knows? Maybe they just enjoy the way each other tastes. Number 12. Conjoined whale calves. Now, I talked earlier about some of the weird mutations that can take place with animals in the womb, leading to massive deformations that can shock people. Now picture that on a larger scale, and you get the case of these conjoined whale calves. This set of calves was found in the Baja California Peninsula by some fishermen, and they were apparently alive when they were discovered. The calves in question were linked at the waist with 2 full heads and tail fins, which is not something that you see every day or even every decade. You need to remember that whales do live births, which means that the mother had to give birth to these conjoined twins, and that could not have been easy in any way, shape, or form. Sadly, they died after a few hours of life, which further highlights that while these are shocking creatures, that doesn't mean they get to live that long. Their mutations make it difficult to function. It's sad, naturally, but that's how nature works at times, no matter how you feel about it. Number 11. The walking fish. This is the story about a walking fish that was found in Thailand, and it baffled people for the simple fact that it was clearly a fish, and yet it also had legs, as in legs that it could use to walk. But it's a fish, right? It shouldn't have legs to walk on, and that kind of breaks one of the rules of reality, if you will. It's not the kind of thing that fish are supposed to have. Well, yes and no. Most fish don't actually have legs, as they feature fins, but there are those fish, known as the batfish, that do have legs and fins. They use them in conjunction with each other to basically creep along the bottom of the areas in which they live. What's even more fascinating is that some of these fish have adapted to their unique habitats so well that they can even climb underwater structures or rocks. This walking ability gives them a distinct advantage when hunting for food or avoiding predators. Scientists have been intrigued by these fish for years, using them as examples of how evolutionary traits can develop in unexpected ways. In certain cases, these fish are also able to survive briefly out of water, which makes their walking even more surreal to witness. The sight of a fish on legs is strange enough to feel like it belongs in a science fiction story, but for the batfish, it's just an everyday mode of getting around. Number 10. The Asian carp. The next one's a bit different from the previous entries. Wild fish may be a classic thing to catch, but that doesn't mean everyone likes every fish that's out there. When it comes to the Asian carp, they're an invasive species that love to reproduce so much that they literally infest the waters they're in. To prove this, in Kentucky, they allowed some boats to shock the waters so that carp would either jump out in great numbers or be stunned enough to be caught and measured. The visuals of the great number of Asian carp jumping out of the water is absolutely insane, and you would swear that you were about to be attacked by these carp when they jumped out. These fish aren't just an annoyance. Their overwhelming presence often threatens the delicate balance of native ecosystems, outcompeting local species for food and space. This problem has led to innovative attempts to control their population, including turning them into a food source for humans and animals. Videos of these carp leaping en masse have gone viral, with some even calling it a real-life fish apocalypse. In some cases, the carp jump so high and in such numbers that they can pose a danger to boaters, causing injuries or knocking people off balance. As a result, efforts to manage Asian carp have become not only a conservation priority, but also a matter of public safety in heavily infested waterways. Number 9. Basket star. Well, picture this, you're out fishing and you get a bite on your line. That's when you pull it up, not to see a fish but a massive, tangly, orange kind of thing attached to your line. At first, you might think that it's nothing more than seaweed or maybe some kind of weird plant that you accidentally hooked. It does happen to the best of us. Except when you remove it from your line, you notice that it starts moving around. Yes, this happened for real in Alaska, and it's one of the weirdest things you're ever going to see in the world of fishing. This apparently is a deep-sea creature known as a basket star. These are a species of echinoderm, like starfish, and are usually found on the ocean floor, which makes it pretty odd that one of them happened to be caught on a line in Alaska. No doubt, the fisherman was freaked out by what they had seen, and they were right to post it online. After all, would you believe that something like this existed if you didn't see it moving around? That's what I thought. The wonders of the deep will never stop amazing people, and we're not even halfway through the list. Things are going to get even weirder from here. Number 8. The faceless fish. There's a title I never thought I'd get to utter, and for the record, I'm not kidding. This is 100% a fish that does not have a face. It was found off the coast of Australia, and even the people who discovered it could not believe what they had found. It didn't have a face or any kind of noticeable gills, two things that fish kind of need to live. And here's one thing that will likely blow your mind. It's not actually a mutation like with whales or a fish with two mouths. Oh no, this is a species known as the cusk eel or the faceless cusk. It's a species that's so rare in Australian waters that they had not seen one of this size, or even at all, for probably around 100 years. Typically, the eel lives in the Arabian Sea, Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, Japan, and Hawaii while being at depths of over 4,000 meters. That would explain why some scientists thought it was a new species at first. So that begs the question, how does it actually survive? Well, just because you can't see the mouth or the gills doesn't mean they're not there. Instead, the mouth is on the bottom of the creature, which is quite odd, but life does find a way. The real question is how this eel was able to evolve into looking like this. It's not exactly normal, and we should all be glad that not everything evolved in this fashion. Number 7. A three-eyed fish. Now, I'm taking a bit of a sidetrack on this one because I can't say for certain that this three-eyed fish was caused by a mutation in the womb. Why I can't say that is because this fish was found near a nuclear power plant. Just like in The Simpsons with Blinky the fish, this happened in Argentina, and it was truly a case of life imitating art. Just like in The Simpsons, that third eye was right in the middle of the others, and it was found in the waters of an area right by the nuclear plant. Now sure, you can't say for certain that this was caused by some kind of nuclear radiation or toxic waste spilling into the water. However, what we do know is that nuclear radiation can have harmful effects on living things like people and animals, so it's not exactly out of the question either. Some locals have expressed concern about the environmental impact of the power plant, claiming that it's not just the fish that might be affected but the broader ecosystem. The three-eyed fish quickly became a viral sensation, with many drawing parallels to the Simpsons episode and debating the potential consequences of human activity on wildlife. Scientists studying the specimen noted that while mutations like this can happen naturally, environmental factors such as radiation or pollutants could exacerbate their frequency. Meanwhile, the authorities have yet to confirm whether they will investigate the plant's water output, but activists are already calling for stricter regulations. The real question, though, is whether there are more fish like this in the area, and if so, they may end up having a problem, and they definitely shouldn't eat those fish. Number 6. Human face fish. Next up, we go to Thailand, where they found a fish that will surely haunt your dreams forever. There, a mysterious fish was discovered that truly had a human-like face. It did not have the skin of a human, but its expression looked just like that of a human. That alone makes it noteworthy. Its eyes and lips alone were worthy of attention, as they did look emphatically human. The fish weighed 2.7 kilograms and was 42 centimeters long, so at least it wasn't human-sized to go along with its human-like face. What's funny about the entire ordeal is that the person who caught it almost threw the thing back. Upon closer examination, it was identified as a kind of carp, a species known for occasionally developing peculiar facial structures due to deformities. This particular fish's human-like appearance was likely the result of genetic mutations or environmental stressors during its growth. Local villagers began calling it the ghost fish and speculated that it might be a bad omen or a spirit in disguise. The strange find quickly went viral online, with thousands of people debating whether it was real or a clever hoax. Scientists have pointed out that similar cases have occurred elsewhere, where facial deformities in fish create uncanny human-like features. Despite its eerie look, the fish became a symbol of fascination, sparking conversations about nature's quirks and the impact of human activities on aquatic life. You might want to do something like that as well if you saw this thing looking at you like that. Number 5. The Cyclops shark. The one that I'm showing you right now is arguably one of the most famous mutated creatures of all time. This is an albino Cyclops shark that was found in Mexico back in 2011. It was so shocking to see the pictures of this creature that people actually thought it was fake. The people who took the pictures and caught the shark let it age a little bit and then showed even more pictures to prove it was real. Here's another twist to the tale. The shark wasn't caught in the traditional sense but was instead fished out of the stomach of its mother. They cut open a mother shark, and this is what they found inside. Experts later confirmed that the Cyclops shark suffered from a condition known as cyclopia, a rare congenital disorder where only one eye develops in the center of the head due to an issue during embryonic development. Adding to its uniqueness, the shark's albino appearance is a result of another mutation, making it doubly rare. Such findings are often studied to understand the genetic and environmental factors leading to these anomalies. The discovery also reignited debates about the ethics of examining pregnant animals and whether such findings justify the means. Despite the controversy, the albino Cyclops shark has become an icon of marine biology oddities, often cited as proof of nature's endless capacity to surprise. Yet again, it's another case of a mutation making something so real that many people thought it was fake. Number 4. A birdfish hybrid. Now, as has already been proven time and again, there are some weird fish out in the ocean that are just begging to be caught, or even thrown back into the deep after we have a look at them. In this case, a fish was caught and felt to have had the head of a bird. When you look at it, you can see why people felt that way. The fish's body looks as you would expect, but when you get to the head, it has a very rounded appearance, and there even seems to be a kind of beak there. Observers were quick to speculate that this bizarre fish might be the result of crossbreeding with another species, though such hybridization is highly unlikely in nature. Others suggested that pollution or environmental factors could have played a role in altering its development. Mutations like this are rare but not unheard of, particularly in areas where water quality has been compromised. Some anglers joked that it might be part of a new trend of fish evolving to mimic birds, but of course, evolution doesn't quite work that way. The sighting sparked conversations about the impact of human activity on aquatic ecosystems and how these abnormalities might be a warning sign. Well, this would later be confirmed to be the common freshwater carp, so it's not exactly a new species. However, that head is not how the carp is supposed to look. Most scientists would agree that it was yet another example of a fish having a mutation before birth, which led to it looking like this. Number 3. The paddlefish. Have you ever noticed that there are a bunch of fish that are named after human instruments? There's the hammerhead, the sawfish, and now we have the paddlefish. The one that I'm showing you right now is apparently a really great catch when it was discovered in Pennsylvania back in 2017. It is quite the rare fish, so that was one lucky angler. Paddlefish are often referred to as living fossils due to their lineage dating back over 300 million years, which makes every sighting feel like a journey through time. The large paddle-like extension on their snout, known as a rostrum, is not just for show. It's covered in sensory receptors that help the fish detect the electrical signals of plankton, its primary food source. These creatures are filter feeders, swimming with their mouths wide open to scoop up their meals from the water. Despite their fascinating biology, paddlefish populations have been in decline due to habitat destruction and overfishing, making such a catch even more remarkable. Conservationists are working hard to protect these species, ensuring that future generations can still encounter their unique charm. So yes, it must have been quite the shock when it was reeled in after all. Number 2. The sawfish. The tale of this catch is very much an adventure and one that took place in Florida. Some anglers were out doing some night fishing, and that's when they saw a roughly 5-meter-long fish in the water and tried to catch it. Due to the lighting, they couldn't tell what it was exactly and thought it might have been some kind of ancient dinosaur. They initially described its movements as prehistoric, with its elongated body gliding effortlessly through the water. As they worked to reel it in, the fish revealed its most striking feature, a long, saw-like snout lined with sharp, serrated teeth that made it look straight out of a sci-fi movie. Small-toothed sawfish, often referred to as living fossils, use their rostrums to detect and stun prey in murky waters, a skill that has made them legendary among local fishermen. Once they identified it, the anglers were careful not to harm it, understanding the importance of protecting such a rare species. After documenting their incredible encounter with photos and videos, they ensured the sawfish was released back into the water unharmed. As it would turn out, though, it was actually a massive small-toothed sawfish which is native to Florida waters. It is still quite the catch. As these are rare and endangered fish, and we don't know too much about them, hopefully, they were able to preserve it. Number 1. Giant gold carp. Finally, we have one last fish that literally boggled minds because, by all accounts, this was some kind of massive goldfish. One could easily say that due to the color of the creature itself. However, you'd be wrong on that front because it is actually a carp. In fact, it's known as the bigmouth buffalo, which is an interesting name for a fish. The bigmouth buffalo is known to grow over 4 feet in length and can weigh more than 80 pounds, making it one of the largest freshwater fish in North America. What's even more fascinating is that researchers have found some of these fish to be over 100 years old, making them one of the longest-living freshwater species. Their bright orange hue, while reminiscent of a goldfish, is believed to be caused by genetic mutations or environmental factors over their long lifespan. They play a crucial role in maintaining the aquatic ecosystem by feeding on plankton and helping control algae growth. What took people aback the most wasn't just the color of it, but also the size of this fish. As it would turn out, the reason for both of these things might just be longevity, as in, the fish has lived a long time and thus adapted to both be that size and that color. As we've shown, fish can evolve in weird ways, so why not like this? Sure, it may not be what you expect, but how many of the fish that you've seen here today are really what you expected in the end? That's a wrap from the depths of the ocean, where fishermen have reeled in everything from the big and bizarre to the downright incredible. Were you amazed by the many catches they've made over the years? Which one did you find the most magnificent? Or do you think there are others that should have made the list? Let me know in the comments below. Check out the other cool videos on the screen, and I'll see you next time.